watching the Bulldog Brewhouse Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Steve Grover back for another episode of the Bulldog Brewhouse Podcast. We're back again. We're back to talking about motorcycles again, one of my big passions in my life. Obviously, I'm a motorcyclist. I do motorcycle injury law, so obviously, we're going to have another guest here talk about motorcycles. But this episode is brought to you by Grover Law Firm. If you're injured in an accident in Alberta, give us a call. We'll take care of you, and we'll get you a really good settlement. So tonight I got Solomon. Hey Solomon, how's it going?
I'm great, Steve. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on our episode of the podcast today. You came directly from work?
You got it. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you work at Barnes Blackfoot Motorsports, which is sort of a mouthful now.
It is a mouthful, and technically it's Barnes Power Sports Blackfoot. They shuffled everything around, but yes, absolutely.
All right. So people that don't know you, you're in the sales department at Barnes. Can we say that? Is that okay?
Barnes is good. People are going to call it Blackfoot till the end of time. Yeah. So Blackfoot's just fine, yes. Okay. BMW Motorrad Specialist at Blackfoot, absolutely.
Okay. So where are you from originally?
I was born in Calgary. I've lived here all my life. Really? Yeah.
Okay, so I was born in Calgary too. Like, that's pretty cool, man.
There you go, 100%. Yeah, Calgary proud. Yeah.
What hospital are you born in?
Rocky View Hospital.
Okay, I was born in the Holy Cross, which shows how old I am.
There you go, yeah. Absolutely.
I won't tell you my age, but dude, by Holy Cross, that's not even a hospital anymore.
Yeah.
All right. And so you went to high school here?
Yeah, absolutely. Centennial High School, 100%.
Okay. And then you got it. How did you get into motorcycling?
Motorcycling, I was out of high school. I was going to Mount Royal University for marketing. Yeah. I was working part-time at Valley Village doing stuff. Mm-hmm. And a buddy of mine saw that Pro-Am Motorsports at the time was hiring motorcycle sales guys and whatnot. Yeah. And I had just gotten a motorcycle, 1999 SV650, and loved it. And so within 2 months I was working there, and that was like 5 years ago.
Okay. So how old were you? You've obviously got a Class 6, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
how old were you when you got your Class 6?
I was 16 when I had my Class 6.
So right at 16 you got your Class 6.
First thing I could do, absolutely.
And what inspired you to get your Class 6? Why did you want to look cool like Tom Cruise in Top Gun and get the babes or something?
It's hilarious because that is my motivation behind motorcycling. Is I want to feel like Tom Cruise, absolutely. But I've always been a car guy, and motorcycle, that's cheap speed, absolutely. So. Okay.
Well, I mean, the prices of motorcycles aren't going up; they're not cheap anymore.
Well, I mean, prices of cars are probably going up too, right? Comparably. Yeah. So that was it for me. I like fast things that smell nice and sound nice, and absolutely.
So your first job with Pro-Am, which is Jack Carter now, is it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Which location was it? North side?
It was the north one, which it was Pro-Am was north, and then Rocky Mountain Honda was the south, and they were both actually always owned by Jack Carter, but they rebranded a few years ago. So
at Pro-Am North, you're in the sales?
Yep.
And what were you selling up there?
When I started, we were doing Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, and then within my first year, I was the Honda manager there. And then we dropped Cowie, and now they just carry Honda, Yamaha.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So I know you're working at Barnes now, and you're in the BMW, which is high end,
it's a step
European.
Up, yeah.
You're up in the big leagues now.
Yes.
Okay. But I want to know, as a motorcyclist, when you're at Pro-Am, when you're selling Honda, Yamaha, or Cowie, in your opinion, what was the best Japanese motorcycle?
I mean, it depends.
You got to give me an answer.
I will. I don't
want a President Biden answer.
It's a non-answer. I think across the board, Yamaha makes a good, blend of reliable and exciting products that can kind of compete at the highest level. They did really well for a long time. MotoGP, Supercross, Motocross, etc. The Hondas, they're not a very emotional company, honestly. Yeah. I think that Honda's motto could be it'll get you there, but it won't get you there with a smile. So
it'll get you there but you won't have a babe on the back of your bike.
Well, exactly, absolutely. But all the guys will be checking it out.
We gotta be 100%. Correct.
Well, there you go. That's Honda would want. Yeah. So and then Cowie kind of likes to undercut everyone else in terms of price and quality, and I say that as I've owned a few Kawasaki's. But they make such an exciting product. All Kawasaki's paint colors are awesome. They make the H2 supercharged bike, stuff like that. So Yamaha's a good kind of in the middle. It's exciting, it's reliable, it's fast.
Okay, so my dad was a doctor, but he rode bikes and he loved Yamaha. Yamaha was his thing. I rode his Yamahas. I like them, but they're great bikes. So if you had a chunk of cash right now and you were going to buy a Yamaha R1M,
Yes.
or a Cowie 10RR,
Yes.
or a Honda Fireblade? Which one would you buy?
I'd buy the Fireblades.
Yeah? Why is that?
Only because it's the exclusivity, because nobody else wants to spend $40K on a Honda. So
Okay.
I have the only one.
Yeah.
And that's still quintessential sport bike. It's geared really short. And I like that one. I had a 2020 ZX10 and it was a great bike, but it was geared for Jonathan Rea. Like it's a track bike for sure.
But Mark Marquez drives a Fireblade, doesn't he?
He has a CBR 600 actually, but
on the track, what's he?
RC 213.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I mean that's an easy bike to crash apparently.
But he's a big Honda guy, isn't he?
He is. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, and with rumor of him leaving, I bet you working with Honda, Mark Marquez hops off a Honda and Honda will pull out a MotoGP.
So where's Mark Marquez going to go?
Probably KTM, but he should go to Ducati.
Oh, so KTM. Okay.
I think KTM, but he would win on a Ducati.
Yeah, okay. And so you were at Pro-Am for a while, selling Cowies, Honda, and Yamaha.
You got it.
Why did you guys lose a Kawasaki dealership?
I mean, it was for a couple of reasons. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about, but
Okay.
it came down to basically just they didn't want to order ATVs and side by sides. Any of those brands, you have to have a minimum floor representation, which means you can't just be a Kawasaki motorcycle dealer as much as you'd want to be. You kind of have to bring in some of the ATVs, dirt bikes, side by sides, etc. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that. Nobody buys Kawasaki quads.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, too bad, so sad.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long were you at Pro-Am for?
I was at Pro-Am for about a little over 3 years.
Okay, and then after the 3 years, what happened? You got sick of it, or you moved on?
I got sick of it, yeah. It was nice and whatnot, but they were jerks. They treated me well because I sold so many bikes, but they didn't treat my friends well, my coworkers, and so I was like, I'm over it. Went to Blackfoot. I knew a few of the guys there just from bouncing stuff back and forth, and just obviously giant upgrade in terms of prestige and brands they carry and the people there, frankly. So I was super excited to go on board there, yeah.
Okay, and then when you went to Blackfoot, it's still called Blackfoot, right?
Yes.
And then that's when the owners were still there, the three of them?
Yeah, I was at Blackfoot for a year before it swapped over.
Okay, and what was your job there at Blackfoot when you started?
They kind of wanted to there was some stuff moving around and whatnot, so they kind of wanted to bring me in as one of the BMW specialists, but with Eric being there at the time, I was European sales specialist there for a solid year, and then with Eric retiring, I went into full-time BMW specialist.
So Eric actually left.
He did, yes,
my God.
on good terms, and he's absolutely, but great, right?
He's older than the dealership itself. Isn't he?
It is true, yes.
He was there in 1970 when they started.
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely.
So people don't know who Eric is. What's his last name again?
Noseguard.
Noseguard. Okay, and he's that tall, good-looking, silver-haired guy.
Mustached guy, yes, absolutely.
And he'd been there forever, right?
Well, he was there for a number of years back at the Edmonton Trail location decades ago, and then he actually left. He was a rep for Suzuki Canada, for Western Canada there for like 10, 15 years, then came back to Blackfoot in the late 90s, I believe. So he'd been there for just long enough. Regardless, absolutely.
Okay. So he's gone now.
He is gone, yes.
And then that opened you up to take his job and essentially start selling BMWs.
Absolutely. Eric being 72, he worked, pretty part-time hours and wasn't as spry. So, we're per capita, Barnes Blackfoot, number one BMW Motorrad dealer in the country. So we're hoping to, absolutely. Only beaten by Gabrielle in Quebec, and they serve 3 times the population size that we do. So that's easy enough.
So you're at Blackfoot, and then tell us all the big changes that just happened this March.
Yeah, March 1st. The owners had been previous owners, Pat, Jason, and Doug had been looking to retire for a year or so, but I mean, big machine, kind of a lot of moving pieces there to sell. So that was like probably a year-long process there that we'd been kind of hearing, hey, we're in the process of selling the business, et cetera, et cetera. And then kind of late 2022, everything was official. And then March 1st, Barnes Garage Co. took over. And honestly, Barnes owns 5 other dealerships, 4 Harley dealers, and another much smaller power sports dealership. And Blackfoot sells on any given day, and certainly over the course of a year, more bikes, apparel, anything than all the other dealers combined.
Really?
So and it's not really close. So I think the Blackfoot acquisition, for one, they really wanted to learn from Blackfoot more than anything, and they certainly didn't want to upset the great team that we have and really change much. So it's been mostly similar for sure. If anything, improvements have come. So yeah.
So sort of now you've taken on this new role. You're one of the European specialists there. Congratulations on your new job there.
Thanks.
You must be very proud, and plus, you're selling a good German product. I mean, my mom's background is German, and
there you go.
They're Bavarian, so I'm very proud of BMW.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I don't have a Beamer now, but I've had 3 or 4 in my past, so I need, maybe you should sell me one.
We need to get you back. 'Cause I don't know, you've been lured by the Ducatista.
I know.
Absolutely.
The Italian stallion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so now the name is Barnes Blackfoot Motorsports.
It's technically Barnes Power Sports Blackfoot.
Okay, so they put Blackfoot at the end.
They did, yeah, which is but I mean, day one, first thing they said was, this is what the name's going to be. Nobody's going to call it that. People are always going to call it Blackfoot. Such a storied history, and so at least they acknowledge that for sure. Because coming in, changing the name, it'd be like when they changed Aunt Jemima and nobody cared at all.
No,
right?
I know.
So,
well, exactly. I mean, when they went from Coca-Cola, the new Coke, there was a riot in America, and they went to Coke Classic. It's not that bad, is it?
No,
they're not rioting out there.
It's not that. Luckily, because we were kind of worried about that, right? But I mean, they could change the name to something completely otherwise. People aren't going to stop calling it Blackfoot, and it'd be shooting themselves in the foot.
So you got the new ownership now. Everything's chugging along. You guys are the number 1 volume BMW motorcycle dealer in Canada, apart from the one in Quebec.
Yeah, per capita with the population size we serve. Yeah, so
and like if no one's familiar with Barnes, you walk in, you've got all like the Japanese stuff on the main floor. You've got all the riding gear on the left and the dirt bike stuff on the left, and then the right is the dirt bike, and you go upstairs and you got BMW to the right of you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So how's sales been this year?
Sales have been good. Yeah. We first half of the year we did over 110% of our target, and BMW, they've been great. Some exciting products this year for sure, and it's a strong brand. They're growing.
So I mean, obviously BMW. So people know BMW cars. Okay, obviously the M3, the M8, the M6, you got the X5. But interesting point is BMW motorcycles are made in Berlin, correct? Not in Munich.
It's correct, different plants.
So I know my history. Okay?
There you go, absolutely.
Not some fly-by-night lawyer trying to do motorcycle.
Yeah, a little bit of research, absolutely.
So why is that? I've been to Munich, and I've got family in Munich, and I've done the BMW car tour, which is right next to the beautiful park in Munich. But is there a reason why they have the Motorrad division in a different city than Munich at all?
It's a full operation. Like they do the same tour and whatnot with the motorcycle deal or plant and whatnot, and it's a massive operation for sure. So separate factories. I couldn't tell you why they're in different cities, absolutely. But
is there any reason why they're in Berlin opposed to being in Munich at all?
I don't believe so.
No? Okay.
Some German guy knows the answer.
Yeah, probably one of my cousins would know.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But are they on the east side of Berlin or the west side, or you wouldn't know that?
No, I mean technically, I guess it would be the northeast side if I'm looking at a map of Berlin in my head.
Okay, but BMW Motorrad wasn't communism at one time. Eastern German control.
Right. No.
No? So have you been to BMW factory at all in Berlin?
I haven't. Simon got to go the year before I went, and so they do kind of a factory tour. Their BMW Motorrad days, usually in Berlin. This year they're actually doing it at Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama. Okay. So I should get to go to that, but no, I haven't been there. I'd love to.
So why they do it in all places in Alabama?
Because Barber's there. That's why. Okay. Yeah, and they have that giant vintage motorcycle museum. And this year, of course, 100-year anniversary of BMW Motorrad. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you had a good year already. Yeah. And so people don't know BMW is Bavarian Motor Works, and they have a Motorrad division, and you guys make motorcycles, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And then there's the car division, which is totally different, but same company, but they're based in Munich, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so what is your number one selling bike for BMW Motorrad?
If you look worldwide, and Canada is no different. R1250 GS and R1250 GSA, which BMW classes as one bike technically, that's actually the best-selling motorcycle in the world, above 500 cc's.
Yeah.
So absolutely for BMW across the board.
And that's got the boxer engine.
You
correct?
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
And you've driven those, obviously.
Oh yeah, tons.
What do you think of those?
I think they're fantastic. Yeah. No, BMW actually flew me down to South Carolina last year to do their GS Academy, Performance Riders Academy. So I got to ride GS's like 8 hours a day for a week off road, and there's nothing that bike can't do that you can. The rider is the limitation. It's amazing, incredible bike.
And the one thing I learned with riding, though, I rode one in Colombia on a tour down in Colombia, but what I found is the low center of gravity with the engine being so low, that it helps out, doesn't it?
Low center of gravity for sure, and then because it's a boxer engine, not only is it low, it's also kind of out, so it's a well-balanced chassis. Then also, if you look at where the crankshaft position of a boxer engine kind of goes down the center. So the engine's basically self-balancing in terms of the rotational mass. So, I mean, the bike balances itself.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So number one's GS, obviously, the big engine. And what would be the second most popular selling BMW you sell on the floor there at Barnes?
For us, it's the S1000RR, actually, which is kind of surprising. But we sell more, I mean, carrying every single brand, essentially, of Superbike, we sell more S1000RRs than everyone else combined.
Why surprised that they're the second popular bike?
It's just, I mean, for the price points, I mean, you get kind of what you pay for, I would say, but most of the RRs we spec are $25,000, $30,000. So you compare that to a ZX-10R that you can buy for 20 Gs, and it's like 10 to 1 people go with the BMW.
Okay.
But I mean, realistically, I suppose they kind of created the modern superbike, and people have always looked to them as a halo bike. So yeah.
And I've had a bunch of bikes. I know there's a lot of electronics on the BMW. Any electronics issues at all, or
no?
Okay.
Not BMW executes electronics better than any other brand, in my opinion, for sure. If you look at the S1000RR, M1000RR, BMW and World Superbike is the only team to use their own in-house electronics. All of the other teams, World Superbike, outsource it to some other company. BMW makes their own electronics, which is a huge feat. And of course, that trickles down to the street bikes, which is incredible. So they're exceptionally well executed.
Okay. And if anyone knows who's on YouTube, I think the cat's out the bag. There's going to be a new GS coming out in September, October. Like, it's already been announced that 1300
formally announced, not, well, yes, actually BMW's mentioned it. I wouldn't say there's been a grand unveiling. Yes, the fall for that, but they've mentioned it a couple times for their 100-year anniversary. And MCN, Motorcycle News, did kind of an article with some leaked photos that were leaked, which were very well staged. And so there's been a few spy shots of it and whatnot. So yeah, our 1300
there's a
GS,
new 1300 coming out.
You got it, yeah.
And then when is that going to be released?
That one, it's planned for end of September, early October, and then we should actually see one as early as December.
On the floor?
Yeah.
And you're already taking deposits?
Absolutely.
And what's that going to be priced at?
It's going to be, we don't necessarily know 100%, but I wouldn't expect a giant, 10% price increase. It's going to be pretty similar.
So if you want to get into a GS 1250 right now, what's the price bracket so people know?
You're at kind of the 30 to 32 grand mark.
Okay,
with BMW, of course, factory options play a huge difference. If you want, white versus a rally color, that's a $1,200 difference right there. So differences in the factory options, but you're about the $30,000 mark.
Okay, all right. And then I'm always on YouTube. There's the new M1000XR coming out.
You got it.
Now that's a project. Is that actually going to be coming out?
That'll be coming out. Yeah, right now it's weird. They've never really done this before, but they teased a prototype bike at the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting for sure. But that'll be a model next year, M1000XR.
Have you seen that cool commercial where that racers on at the Isle of Man?
Peter Hickman.
And they
such
call
a cool
Berlin, and they get there just in time, right?
That's a sweet ad for sure. I'm glad I saw that. That's awesome.
BMW's always been good at ads. When they brought the RR out, they had that whole dining room table.
The tablecloth.
And they did that, and he took all the tablecloth out without moving the dishes.
100%, yeah.
But they're pretty high. They're pretty up there with their advertising. Would you agree with that?
I think so, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
That was another cool
So they got imagination. I know the Germans, being half German, you're very strict. You're hardworking. You work hard. You party hard. You like beer. But they still know how to market their materials.
Maybe they outsource it to some other.
Must be some Italians.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
all right.
They seem to.
Okay, and so the M1000RR is going to be coming out next year.
M1000XR.
So the XR. Sorry.
XRs,
there's so many X's and R's. And
you got it. Okay. I say that all the time. There's too many letters.
So and they're going to have a competition series.
Yeah, so if you look at, obviously, they did the S1000RR, and then M1000RR was the first M bike, and the differences there compared to the S1000 single R versus the M1000 single R, very similar. They went with pretty reasonably high-spec bike. The only real option for the M bikes is the competition pack. You have the competition pack, carbon wheels, carbon bodywork, typically all the options. So if you look at that, I think, yes, M1000XR, base model, competition model, similar differences there if you look at the single R as well.
Okay, and then the one they have on YouTube, that thing's going to be 208 horsepower.
That's so it's 210 in most of the world is the shift cam engine. The Ducati's 208, and then here in Canada, due to noise regulations, they detune it to 205 horsepower. Okay. Yeah, so if it's using that shift cam engine, which I think they've said it will publicly, then I'd expect 205 horsepower here in Canada. Okay,
and I know we're throwing a lot of like numbers out there and letters out there. So for people that don't know, the GS 1250, that's more of an adventure bike, a touring bike, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Adventure touring, for sure.
And that's the one, the long range. What Ewan McGregor's movie they did?
They did Long Way Round, Long Way Up.
That's the one they rode around the world in,
You got it,
okay.
yeah.
And then, so if we're talking now the M1000XR, that's still like an upright kind of adventure-looking bike, but what's the difference between that and the GS?
You're not taking the XR off-road, for sure.
Yeah,
so you look at the S1000XR, very, very similar bike. It's on-road kind of sport touring. Really, in the last 10 years, sport touring bikes have gone from, sports bikes like Kawasaki Concourse or whatnot to more of the upright touring bikes, and S1000XR is that. But if you look at the suspension, travel, ground clearance, wheel size and material, right, no spoked wheels on those bikes. Those are cast wheels with road tires. You're doing, distance, but on asphalt exclusively.
Okay, so you can't take it off road.
I like to tell you can take anything off road. It's stressful to take take a sport bike basically off road. Yeah.
But you wouldn't be like in Mongolia with that bike.
No,
you'd be on the GS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, and then so the new bikes. I mean, obviously we're halfway through 2023. You've had some new bikes, but then is it next year the big 100th anniversary?
Yes. So technically speaking, this is the 100-year anniversary. 2023, 1923 they started, but it was in September of 1923. So this fall is the 100-year anniversary. The celebrations for that and the models are kind of going to roll into next year. Okay. That's what I would say.
So what's the bit? Are they going to have a big gala? Because I know Harley Davidson just had their 120th anniversary. They had a big party down in Milwaukee. Anything planned for BMW?
That'll be at Barber Motorrad Days. That's going to kind of be the celebration. I'm sure they're going to have a rager in Berlin as well, but that's kind of going to be a lot of the celebration there for sure.
So then, like we talked about the new GS 1300, we talked about the XR. Anything else new that you know of that's coming out for 2024?
There's a lot of new stuff that I know about, but none almost that I'm allowed to talk about. I would expect perhaps completely new models across the board for the GS range is perhaps something you could look for. And a couple new heritage models for sure. But no, honestly, all exciting stuff. It's a big deal for BMW.
Right. And I got to ask you about it because, there's a lot of cruiser riders out there, Harley Davidsons on the big cruiser. So a couple years ago, BMW, they put their foot into the cruising aspect, and it's the R18? The
R18, once again, because of course, 100 years ago, that's what they made, right?
So honestly, I've read different articles about, like, has it been successful? Has it not been successful? So what's your take? I mean, I don't want you to give me a politician answer, okay? Is the R18, was that a good decision for BMW to get into the cruiser?
That's a good question. I'll start, for one, I'm a huge sport bike guy. I go to the track a lot. Yeah. I've had like 8-9 bikes. All of them have been full fairing sport bikes except for the M1000R. It's my first bike that hasn't had clip-ons. I love the R18. I love riding it. People make fun of me. They call me the Cruiser King. I can't get enough. R18 Transcontinental, one of my favorite bikes to ride. It's so comfortable and has so much character. Was it a good idea for BMW? I think it could have been perhaps better executed. BMW, a lot of passion in Germany. German guys come into the shops looking at BMWs, a lot of passion for the heritage models and BMW's heritage. BMW definitely latched onto that. If you look at the design of the R18, very reminiscent of their, cruisers from the, 1930s, 1940s. I don't know necessarily if the North American market can kind of appreciate that as much as that they would hoped. And so it's a model that's done fairly well for BMW, but if you look at what they've done to it in the last couple of years, they've had to kind of expand the customization of the model, because when it first came out, it was You just buy an R18 and there you
it's
go,
just
sir.
black.
Yeah,
That's it,
well, for the most, but
Yeah.
first edition as
Yeah.
well had white pinstriping, reminiscent of bikes, that BMW made from 100 years ago.
And the big boxer engine.
Absolutely, yeah, which is awesome. One of the only air oil cooled.
But I know I've got a Harley Davidson myself, and I've talked to a lot of Harley guys, and they'll admit the R18 looks cool, but the problem when it first came out, you have that big boxer engine, and I don't know where you put your highway pegs. That's what a lot of Harley guys said, like. When they're on the highway, like, where do I put my feet?
I think, for one, to BMW's credit, they are not going after the Harley customer, because the Harley customer wants a Harley Davidson and really almost sees the Harley Davidson as not even a motorcycle. It's its own thing. And
it's a lifestyle.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to be that, for sure. And then, second point on that, BMW actually sells kind of stirrups that sit right on will sit just above the engine, so you can put your feet right up on that.
Yeah.
And then if you look at, an actual crash bar you can get for the standard R18s and baggers, which comes standard on the large R18 Transcontinental. You can mount highway pegs right off of that, and just depending on the length of your legs, one of those two options is going to be totally fine.
So has it been a good seller at Barnes at all, or no?
We've sold a ton of them.
R18s?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Part of that is because, again, BMW very proud of the bike when it came out. They were super excited about it. They made too many of them, frankly, way too many, a lot of them, and so they've had to introduce substantial rebates over the last couple of years, and people have taken advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, but that I do have a KTM. I got a 2011 990. I love that bike. It's got a lot of torque. It's a good adventure bike for my height. But the frustrating part I find with KTM is they'll introduce a bike and they'll here's 3 bikes for the whole of Canada.
Yeah,
that's it. See you later. And then 3 years later, they'll unleash the whole inventory. And by then, I've just moved on. Dude, forget about it. You agree with me with KTM, right?
Oh yeah, and you see that from other brands as well, for sure. But this wasn't
KTM's
even
the worst at it. Honestly, when what's that 1290 Super Duke they brought out? That naked bike.
Yeah, Super Duke.
Okay, I was crazy about that bike. That was 5 or 6 years ago. Oh, we can't. Well, we get 1 or 2, and that's it. And that was it. And then 3 years later, it was a different deal. Hey, Steve, we got one. No, I moved on. Forget about it. You know what I'm saying? It's a little frustrating, with KTM. I mean, I think they do create a good product. I think they have a cool orange theme to it.
You have to like orange, yeah.
Yeah, and I do like funky colors.
Yeah, fair enough.
But what I found, I know you said, well, maybe they released too many R18s, but at the same time, if you don't release enough inventory, people lose interest in the bike. It sort of rubbed me the wrong way with KTM a little bit. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, they had the opposite. It wasn't necessarily that, okay, we didn't want to make too few, so we made just enough. BMW Motorrad sells a little under 2,000 motorcycles a year in Canada, and first 2 years of production for the R18, they made 500 bikes, so that's a giant chunk. It was at the point where dealers took the R18s that they wanted, and then we're in the process of selling them, and there's hundreds of them sitting in the warehouse at BMW that nobody's taking because they already have enough R18. So it was a bit of a problem for them.
But do you think they purposely did that? I know you're saying the Harley rider's different than the R18 Cruiser.
Yes.
But do you, when I look at that, if they're selling 2,000 bikes a year in Canada and they're at least 500 for R18, that's almost a quarter of your inventory gone to one area.
Yes.
Were they trying to grab that cruiser market in Canada? Because that's a lot of bikes for release.
I think that they're trying to gain market share for sure, but they didn't anticipate that they'd have to discount them so severely in order to gain that, really. So perhaps that's what they were looking to accomplish, but
it's hard to say.
They've also reduced the MSRP. MSRP for any R18 dropped by $4,000 to $6,000 across the board for the exact same bike from 22 to 23. So I think it would make more sense to do that and sell a cheaper product and be able to not, because BMW doesn't really discount bikes, they don't have to. That's a good way to gain market share rather than introducing gigantic rebates, which kind of cheapens the brand almost. So they've landed on their feet with it for sure, and there is a decent amount of interest, I would say. But it was a rocky start, perhaps. Okay. And you read stuff on the internet, and people are all, "Oh, this was a terrible mistake for BMW," and what were they thinking? But
well, I know you see, you go on YouTube, one guy says R18 is the best thing BMW ever did, then another guy, R18 is the biggest disaster BMW did. They're trying to go after Harley. I just think Harley's got just a cult following. Americana, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Harley Davidson, BMW's BMW. I mean, I've had so many bikes in my almost 50 years of riding bikes, and you know, at BMW, like honestly, for Canada, I think like you know, I like Ducatis. You know, I got a collection of Ducatis, but you know, if you're just looking for one bike and you want a solid bike that's built correctly, that's built for Canada weather, built for Canada awards, I would recommend a Beamer.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I think across the board, if you look at their entire lineup, BMW makes really some of the front runners and some of the best products in each of their categories.
Yeah.
You're looking for a sport bike, S1000RR is probably the best on the market. And
you get heated grips with it too.
Right? And cruise control.
And
that
comes
factory
standard,
nav.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Adventure bike, R1250 GS is the pinnacle, right? It's like absolutely, I'd say so. So a very versatile and well-designed bike.
And they're solid, like almost like a Leopard tank.
Yes. I don't know if they'd want you making the comparison, but yeah, sure.
Well, I don't think there's many of those left in Ukraine now with the Russians blowing those up. But, you know, I got to get back into Beamers. And one bike that I like, and I know you're a proud owner of, is the new S1000 Single R Competition. So tell everyone about be a proud pop of your new bike.
Yeah, M1000R Comp. I was actually, you'd be proud, I was very close to buying a Street Fighter V4 SP Ducati, and then they came out with the M1000R Comp, and just in riding the S1000 Single R, non-competition of course, I like that bike, great chassis, BMW sport bikes are incredible, and my problem with that though is that the S1000 Single R used the conventionally cammed, detuned previous gen S1000 RR engine, so it made about 165 horsepower, and it wasn't spectacular. And coming from my R1 and my ZX10 that were 200 horsepower is going to be a bit of a step down, but M1000R, full shift cam, real deal S1000 RR engine, 205 horsepower. Yeah, that solved all my problems. Absolutely.
Yeah, you need 205 horsepower on the road.
Absolutely,
Right?
Well, you know, Porsche turbos around here. You don't want to have to lose any races to cars.
Oh yeah, and you want to go up against a Panigale V4R on the Cloud Trail, right? Just
the biggest and the best, 100%.
So how does it? So honestly, you had a Street Fighter option to buy one, then you went with the single 1000R competition though.
You got it.
Yeah, okay. And just a better bike all over.
Yeah, I mean, well, for one, you're buying an M bike.
Yeah.
I think you have to do the competition.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So if I'm gonna come into Blackfoot and I saw this interview, and I want an S1000 Single R, or you're saying, you know, the M1000R competition, how much more do I pay, and what do I get to have that M badge with the competition on it compared to the Single R?
It's interesting because there are some differences in the options available for both bikes. If you look at the competition, you get carbon wheels, you get carbon bodywork, adjustable steering damper, stuff like that for sure. They MSRP on those about $34,000. If you look at a S1000 Single R with carbon wheels, you can't really get any of the other options on that bike. And say the carbon package, for instance, it's close to $30,000. So it's not a giant step up for sure. For $3,000-$4,000, you get 40 horsepower more and perhaps a more bespoke bike, I would say. Yeah.
So the extra money is worth it, the $4,000.
I think so. Yeah. And legitimately, we've sold more M1000R, almost exclusively competitions this year than I think we've sold S1000 Single Rs all time. Like, people recognize the value there, and it's been really good for them, and
it's got carbon fiber, it's got a cool black look to it with red and blue paint.
That's if you want the black, you have to do the competition. They don't let you. That's an exclusive color for sure.
Okay. Now, I did have I don't know if you know, but I did have an S1000 Single R, the old version, which had those weird lights and all the red. I like the bike. I wasn't too crazy about the headlight.
Sure.
And then I traded that in for a Street Fighter. And then I kept that for a year, and I think I sold that during COVID, because actually I got more for it during COVID than what I paid for it.
Street Fighter prices skyrocketed for sure.
Yeah. But the one thing I got to ask you about is, when I've watched the reviews, when they brought out the new S1000R, the new design one, some guys are saying, well, the headlight looks a little Suzuki. What do you think of that?
That is just I don't know how to take that. I'll leave Suzuki out of it. I don't know if those guys know what they're talking about. I think it's a spectacular looking headlight.
Better than the old generation one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think better than the V4 Street Fighter, which is a great looking bike, absolutely.
But the Street Fighter is supposed to look like the Joker. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah, it's an angry looking bike for sure, right? And I think they did what they wanted to achieve. But for me, that single light with the DRL, like full LED, I think looks really good personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And everyone's always been kind of torn on the, more prominence of the past asymmetrical design for BMW.
Yeah.
Because that was across the board. All of their bikes really had the asymmetrical headlight,
have that odd
which
look
was
to it.
functional because it's just as much surface area as you need. But I prefer this for sure. I've had guys come in though, and before when, similar to the XR now, when there were kind of teasings of an M1000R, they're like, I really hope it's, like the double R twin headlights. And then it was revealed with the single headlight, and they're like, I hate that. I don't want it. And so, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why did they go? Because when they brought out the S1000RR, that was a huge hit.
Yes.
And they had that weird headlights.
Yes.
And now they've gone to more conventional headlights, even with the R. Is there a reason why they dumped that whole idea with the headlights?
At the time, like 2009, when they originally came out with the S1000RR, it was, DOT or really regulatory bodies back then, because this was kind of really prior to, LED headlights and whatnot. So it was mostly incandescent headlights had to have X amount of surface area to be road legal, basically. And so BMW cut corners, and the 2009 S1000RR, that was the exact amount of surface area you needed to be road legal. So not an ounce more of weight in terms of the headlight than was needed, which is kind of, they went a bit overboard with that perhaps, but looked really cool, I think. And so, but now with LED technology, it's just not necessary, right? They can get a more, brighter headlights out of the small ones on the modern S1000RR than the old incandescent ones could. So it's just not a concern.
Is there any reason why they went from that funky asymmetrical look, even on the R, to now more conventional? Like even the R looks more like a headlight. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they've changed their design a lot.
Yeah.
I think 10, 15 years ago, BMW was known to be very function over form. A lot of people think they kind of made ugly bikes. And so they've done across the board pretty big redesign on their products. I think they look a bit nicer across the board personally. They still do that asymmetrical design. If you look at most of their bikes, even the paint scheme on mine, livery on one side is different than the other.
Oh, really?
So they they're true to their roots there. They do a lot of asymmetry across the board.
All right. So this is coming up September. This year is going to be a big year for BMW.
Oh, yeah.
100th anniversary. Big party in Alabama. And then any other big announcements right now, or you got to keep everything under tight lips right now?
Yeah, like fall big announcements for sure. I think that a bike that they announced 2 bikes within the last month or so, BMW R18, another R18 variants, the Roctane, which has hard saddlebags and an 8-bar. We just got our first one. I don't know how that's going to be. I'm excited to ride that. I'm excited to see it. That's interesting for sure. And then new R9T replacements, they call it the R12 9T.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why they call it. I think that's a stupid name, but
yeah,
that's redesigned for next year as well, for 2024. So that's been it so far. In addition to their kind of M1000XR prototype, but even earlier, I would say, than end of September. A couple more announcements coming for sure.
So watch the internet, go into Barnes and Buggy every day. What's coming out for 2024, right?
Yes, 100%.
You got nothing better to do, right?
Yeah, please, absolutely. Call, text, right. 100%.
So then, I'm a big movie fan. I don't know, I love movies. Before COVID, unfortunately, I miss the movie theater, but every Sunday I go to the movies and see a new movie. And obviously, everyone knows who Tom Cruise is, probably the most famous actor out there in Mission Impossible movies. But every Mission Impossible movie, he's got a Beamer in there. Is he a big BMW fan?
I think he's a big BMW fan. I would credit his producers probably for working with BMW Motorrad, but I see that we sell BMWs because of Mission Impossible. Okay. That's a good gig for them for sure. Now, do you
recommend people not to wear a helmet like he does in the movies, or wear a helmet?
I'm a big helmet guy. I think you can, absolutely. Tom Cruise, I wouldn't ride a motorcycle like he does in any aspect.
Well, what was that one movie? They had the Mission Impossible. He had an S1000RR black one.
Yes.
And he was going in it like a madman.
Oh, yeah.
With no helmet. Hair in the back.
Sunglasses on. He actually was dragging knee just with jeans on, too.
You don't recommend people ride
if people are chasing you with guns, then go ahead. But if you have the choice, I'd wear a helmet, pants, jackets.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's big. Has he helped sales of BMW with?
Oh yeah, really? The Mission Impossible films, absolutely, 100%.
Okay. Okay, so those are good. Yeah, so my history of BMW, I've had an 650 GS.
Okay, yeah.
I've had an 850 GS. I've had the HP4.
Nice.
And I had the S1000 single R. So you got to get me back in a BMW. Just throw me away from that Italian, stallion
I'd be
look.
more than happy to. Absolutely.
Yeah. But the funny thing about Ducati is, I don't know if a lot of people know, they're actually owned by Germans.
100%. Yeah.
So just come back
for a long time. Yeah.
So come back to pure German, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So you're buying German either way.
Yeah, anyway, it's really Italian
Absolutely.
just in covers, right?
Yeah.
But it's really a German bike.
100%.
Okay. So obviously, you grew up here in Calgary. You love motorcycles. Are you a sports guy at all?
Little bit of a sports guy. I follow hockey pretty closely.
Ice
Calgarian
hockey?
guy, absolutely.
So
yeah.
who's your favorite team?
I've been a St. Louis Blues fan for a long time.
Al McInnes?
Maybe not that long, but yeah, 100%.
That's how old I am.
There you go, yeah.
Then why do you like the Blues?
When I was a kid, I thought they had such a cool logo. That was like in 2006, 2007, and then I suffered for a long time. They were not a great team.
Did they win the cup recently?
2019.
Yeah, they finally won.
Their one and only cup, absolutely.
Have you been down to a game in St. Louis?
I've been to a game in St. Louis,
and
absolutely.
What's the atmosphere like?
That's a big hockey state, Missouri. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. No, it was good. They have a great crowd, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I've been to St. Louis a couple of times. The downtown's kind of like barren a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
They have the Cardinals Stadium. They have all that stuff around the Cardinals Stadium. They have the stadium for the hockey.
Yeah.
That football stadium's gone now because the Rams left.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a good team to follow. You like them?
I love the Blues. They've been doing poorly since they won the cup, but that's my diehard team.
So do you have a Blues jersey?
I have like 5 Blues jerseys.
So what teams?
Absolutely.
Do you have any players on the jerseys?
I do have a McInnes jersey, actually.
McInnes?
Yeah, absolutely. I have an Alex Petrangelo jersey. He was their captain recently for a long time.
Yeah.
I have a Troy Brouwer jersey, Vladimir Tarasenko jersey.
Oh, Tarasenko. Yeah, he's a good player.
And then I have a Brett Hull jersey.
Oh, that
Hull
old
played
school.
for him. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Yeah,
and then I think I have a blank. Yeah.
Okay. But he's a Hall of Famer now, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
Any other than ice hockey, any other sports you follow?
Nothing closely.
Nothing to NFL?
Little bit of football. I wouldn't say I follow it, though.
Yeah.
I watch a couple games. I follow the UFC pretty closely. I did mixed martial arts most of my life. So
what do you think of Conor McGregor?
It was great back in the day.
What about now?
I mean, he probably could have retired a couple years ago.
Yeah,
The featherweight division has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm always excited to see him fight. He puts on a good show, but I'd like to see him win at some points. Yeah.
Is he all like talk and all show now and not really a fighter?
I don't think he has the talent personally to compete at the highest level in the featherweight and certainly lightweight divisions. A lot of talent out there now. And he was always a striker more than a grappler. And I think you have to be a bit more well-rounded to fight now. But he puts on a good show. And in terms of striking ability, he's certainly more than just a talker. He has legitimate striking capability.
Have you watched that Netflix series of him? It's on Conor McGregor now.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, you gotta watch. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll have to, yeah.
But him and Khabib had those antics going on where they attacked the bus one night.
Yeah, that was crazy. Flew in from Ireland. That was absolute insanity.
And then he fought Floyd Mayweather. He did pretty good. Like he went the full round with that dude.
It's true. I mean, for people don't realize how different cage fighting and actual pure boxing are. Even just disciplines of martial arts in general are. So it was impressive just to be able to do that with,
pound to pound, the best boxer in the world.
That's what I was just going to say with, not just any professional boxer, but
probably
one of the
last
best.
Maybe a quarter round with him.
Yeah, well, yeah, right? It would certainly be an exhibition fight. Yeah.
Okay. So have you been to any UFC fights at all, like at the arenas?
Yeah, I was at the second UFC Calgary. They've come here twice now. Yeah, so I was at that. Is that the one where
Khabib came? Or no, I don't think Khabib came. I think he came to support one of his fighters from Dagestan or something like that.
It could have been for sure. That was Jose Aldo fought Jeremy Stevens on the main cards. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I used to go down to Vegas with a group of guys to watch Super Bowl every February. And UFC used to have a fight the night before the Super Bowl. Okay. So that was pretty cool. We'd fly in Thursday, we'd leave Monday. Saturday night there'd be a fight like an MGM Grand. We'd go get tickets. And then the next day we would go watch the Super Bowl at like some sports book in Vegas. It was pretty good. Yeah. But some of the fights, like there was a lot of dancing going on. And who's that Brazilian guy? The kicker? What's his name? Silva.
Anderson Silva.
Yeah, he was in Vegas, and we paid all this money, and it was a premier card fight, and they're dancing like.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, like we spent a shitload of money on these tickets. I could have just went to the nightclub and watched some guys and girls dance.
A lot of people, just kind of want to see a brawl and a bloodbath.
Yeah, but you want to see some good strikes. You want to see them take him down. I mean, I got into UFC when they started. I think it was in 2004. They came out with that reality show. I don't know if you remember that.
The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, but that was like the first year was pretty ultimate. It was just eye opening for me, and they bring all these guys in. You win $100,000 contract, and that's what got me into they had Forrest Griffith. I don't know if you remember him.
Forrest Griffin, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Then they had who's the Iceman?
Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, Chuck Liddell, yeah. And then who's the guy in the Expendables movies?
That was
the guy with the collar full of ears.
Oh, you're thinking of Randy Couture.
Yeah. He was pretty good back then. So do you think I used to watch it pretty religiously for 5 or 6 years. Do you think it's gotten a little watered down, the UFC?
I wouldn't say so. I think there's it depends, because I was going to say a lot of people want to see a brawl and that's when the Ultimate Fighter came out.
Though. Like, you don't have to see blood and guts, but if you're going to pay a lot of money and two guys are going to dance around for 5 rounds,
there's good and there's bad for sure. But I don't know. I can respect a lot of the technique and the tension, especially in the finesse. Mm-hmm. And I think there's probably more talent in the UFC than there has been ever, personally.
So you got to tell me the truth. If there's a UFC card fight between two dudes, or now they have the female division.
They have,
Who are the better fighters now, the women or the dudes?
I mean, in any sport, the skill gap to men seems to be higher for sure.
Yeah, but those women wail each other pretty good. I've seen some of those fights when they get the women in the the UFC fights and they beat the crap out of them.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no mercy with those ladies.
100%. Well, I think the UFC introducing women's division has probably opened the doors to a lot of women to get into mixed martial arts as well. So you've seen that.
Do you think the dudes still have a better fight than the women, though, in UFC?
Some of the time. A lot of the time, I would say. So, yeah. Sometimes dudes have weak fights, though, right? Mm-hmm. And then a lot of those, bantamweight, featherweight women are really talented strikers, really good fights.
Well, I don't know if you know, I have 3 younger sisters, so, those women have no mercy.
They can fight.
Grover House, man, if I fought one of them, the other 2 be running down the stairs and beat the crap out of him.
Fair enough, yeah. I believe that.
Yeah. So UFC, I mean, I like to go back to UFC fight. I mean, they used to have those fights in Vegas. I miss those, the Saturday Night Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
They've had some fights in Dubai I've watched. I haven't been over there. I've been to Dubai, but not when they had the fights.
Right.
But sometimes I think it's been a little watered down a little bit. But, obviously we've got the famous fighter from Quebec. Who's that?
GSP.
Yeah, GSP. But he's retired now.
He is, absolutely.
Yeah, and he got into movies, but he's not really a big movie. Like, I thought he'd be more of a movie star now than where he is now.
Yeah, he tried to get into it a couple times, but maybe it's difficult for him as a French Canadian. He can't really have speaking roles unless it's
but tell that to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I guess so. Hey, that's a good point.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. I mean, I remember I saw Bloodsport. He had 2 lines in that. Like, he didn't even know English.
It's also rare to see, great action films nowadays aren't really as big as they used to be, right? So maybe it's harder because you don't really see anyone. Even Conor McGregor could be in any movie he wants, right? And he's not especially either. So yeah.
Okay, so UFC is still an interest, and hockey, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Any interest in music at all?
I like music. I play piano, bass guitar, played the euphonium growing up as well. Yeah, absolutely. I produce electronic music, did for a long time as well. Yeah, I like music, 100%.
You got a favorite musician out there?
That's a good question. I really like the Rolling Stones.
That's old school, man.
A little bit,
that's even before my time.
You know them, right? Yeah.
I thought you'd see someone like, Tupac or,
It's hard to say for sure. A little bit of everything, but I like the Stones.
Right. Okay, so things are up at Barnes, Motorsports, Blackfoot.
Power Sports, Blackfoot.
I'll get what? BPB.
But people call it, or we've been calling it at least, just BPS Blackfoot. And you take
BPS Blackfoot.
That takes most of the mouthful out of it.
BPS Blackfoot. Yeah.
We should.
Yeah, or just keep it Blackfoot.
Yeah.
50 years of being. Blackfoot's it's a Calgary institution. Like, I grew up here.
Oh yeah.
I was born here. My dad used to go there. I've gone there. my kids will go there. It's a generational business.
100%.
They've done a great job of running it. What I like about Blackfoot, I mean, everyone's pretty friendly there. Customer service is good. You've got a wide variety of stuff. Like you can go from a Kawasaki to BMW, or you got Honda now too.
Yeah, one-stop shop.
Yeah. And you got great, helmet selection. You got the dirt bike side. I mean, you guys always taking care of me, so I really appreciate everything you've done for me and Grover Law Firm over the years.
Oh, 100%.
But the only thing lacking, I need another BMW motorcycle
and
in my garage.
Tomorrow it can be done. Absolutely.
Right in there and
we're ready when you are. 100%.
When's that single art competition coming in?
I think that bike's in Ontario. That bike's close.
So a month or so.
Couple weeks it'll be here.
Yeah, August or September.
Yeah, I think August for sure. 100%.
And you taking any deposits on the new XR competition, or still a project bike?
It's not an official bike, so it's like, we can take a deposit on anything.
Yeah.
Tell you 2030, right?
Yeah,
it's not a bike that we can actually place an order on right now, technically. So.
Well, you are taking deposit for the GS, aren't you?
We've taken a few deposits on GSs.
So that'll be a hot bike again, you figure?
It's always, as we talked about, always a hot bike. I'm sure it will be. It'll be interesting to see, already there's been obviously a lot of excitement around it, and I think that'll continue once it's actually officially announced and we can see the specs on it. There's a lot of guys as well going, hey, well, this is really the penultimate year of the 1250. They've perfected it. They've ironed out all the kinks. Next year, there are going to be any issues when the 1300 comes out. It's a whole new chassis, engine, etc. Yeah. We'll see for sure. So,
do you have any 1250 GSs on the floor right now?
Oh yeah.
You think those are going to be collector's items in 10 years?
No.
Why not?
Well, the 1200, nobody. They've been making GSs for 40 years. The R8, the originals R80s, maybe R100 GSs are collector's items. Every bike after that for the last 30 years.
Yeah. So you wouldn't run down and buy a 1250 GS as a collector's bike and keep in the garage for 10 years?
As a collector's bike and keep in the garage 10 years. I would absolutely run down and buy one and have a phenomenal bike to ride. But not as a collector's piece,
bike.
No.
Okay. Any big collector's bikes right now that you have down at Barnes, Blackfoot?
That Sao Paulo yellow M1000RR, that's a collector's bike. 462 units worldwide. That's another big anniversary, 50 year of M Motorsports, right? So they get the same 50 year anniversary badges. The cars do obviously have an exclusive M car color. I think that's the collector's bike. We sold a few of those, and two of them went to collectors already. So.
What about the one on the floor right now? It's sat there for a little while.
We took that from another dealer that is in Saskatchewan, and they have no hope of selling it for sure. It's a niche bike that I think a collector appreciates for sure, right? And honestly, the color is polarizing. When it first was announced, I was like, I don't know, but seeing it in person, very beautiful, I think.
It's good.
I think so.
It's different than, because technically, BMW's typical German, very functional, very black and white.
Literally, yes.
You see a lot of Porsche 911s in Calgary that are either white or black. You rarely see a purple one.
That's true.
Leave that to the Italians, eh?
There you go. A bit more flashy,
But
for sure.
That would be a good collector's bike.
Oh yeah.
So anyone out there looking for a collector's BMW, call my buddy Solomon. He'll sell you. What's that price listed at out the door?
We just took $3,000 off that
what is
one.
that
so
now?
I think it's only about $52,000. 50,
all
51,
in. Out
you
the
got
door?
it. Yeah, absolutely.
So only $52,000. You can have a BMW collector's bike.
It's a bargain.
And Solomon will sell it to you tomorrow. So get down and see my boy Sullivan.
Last one in the country.
Last one in the country.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So you can brag at all your friends at Thanksgiving or the family dinner. Hey, I got the last polarized S1000 M in Canada, right?
You got it. Yeah, exactly that.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming down.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your new position. I hope all the well for you, and hopefully you just keep on pumping out those sales for your bosses at Barnes and make them a ton of money. And obviously, hopefully, you'll make money too.
It trickles down.
Trickles down.
Absolutely.
I believe in Reaganomics. Make sure the money comes down.
Yeah, it's never worked, but hopefully this is it. Yeah.
And then you got to get me in there because I need another BMW, especially 100%. My mom being German. It has
to happen.
I think my mom, she's passed away. I think she's rolling in her grave right now. I don't have a BMW.
We wouldn't want that. We'll fix that.
All
Absolutely.
Right, okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking your time.
My pleasure.
We'll probably see you down at Barnes again. Okay.
100%.
Okay. Well, thank you. So everyone out there, thanks for joining us. Obviously, we had a great interview today with Solomon from BMW, and Again, if you want a collector's BMW, get down to see my buddy Solomon. He'll sell you that $52,000.
You got it.
Rock bottom deal, right?
100%.
It could be worth $100,000 in 3 or 4 years.
It will be, absolutely.
It will be, okay. So the stock market sucks. The price, there's nothing to invest your money in now. Go get that $52,000 M polarizing S1000RR from my buddy Solomon. Okay? Thank you, and see you guys next time on the Bulldog Brewhouse Podcast. Thanks. Cheers.